Alright, so I know a lot of you probably want me to talk about Season 3, and if I'm gonna be honest, I really want to as well, but I wasn't originally planning on making reviews for any of the episodes, like I did with Perfect or the Easter one, because as interesting as they are, there are just so many new ones coming out right now, and unfortunately, I just do not have enough time to talk about them all, because I got schoolwork, other things to work on, and the videos take a while to make. So if you're wondering where my reviews on those episodes are, well, basically there aren't going to be any. At least not until the season ends or I find more time. Or at least that was the plan until one episode came out that was just so insane I had to cover it. And of course, that episode is none other than Mini Bluey. And man, I knew this episode was going to be a little bit crazy, but I was not even close to being ready for what was about to come, because this episode is easily one of the craziest ones, and possibly just the most chaotic of them all. So today, I'll be basically explaining what the episode actually is, how crazy it gets, and also of course leave my opinions on it since this is a review. But before I do that, I should mention that since this is a new episode, I'm sure many of you haven't seen this episode yet, and that this video does contain spoilers for this episode. So if you don't want to hear me cover it or spoil it for you, here's your chance to leave and go watch it, because honestly, this is just something you have to see yourself. And of course, this video is just my honest personal opinion, and not a fact. So if I say anything that you disagree with, it's perfectly fine. And as long as everyone stays respectful, I think we'll be alright. So without further ado, it's time to look at the 7 minutes of chaos known as Mini Bluey. Let's begin. So for such a crazy episode, it has a somewhat normal start, with Bluey bothering her parents and singing like it's dance mode. And Bandit, who I assume probably suffers through this every single day, is just like, why are you and Bingo so different? It would be a lot easier if you two were the same. So in typical Bluey fashion, she instantly comes up with a plan, while Bandit instantly regrets his decisions. However, going back to Bluey and Bingo, we see the two preparing their act. And you know what? I actually remember reading the synopsis before watching the episode, and I thought that the idea of Bingo acting like Bluey was going to be a bit fun to see, but nothing more than just a random role reversal we've seen in other shows. However, when we actually cut back to Bandit, the kids finally return and oh my god, Bingo is just blue now! And yes, I know it's just a change in color, but the fact that Blue Bingo is a thing now honestly makes this episode so much better. Like, my jaw dropped when I saw this because I wasn't expecting something so cursed and adorable. But anyways, after making Bandit somehow regret his decisions more, the two run off so Bluey can basically turn Bingo into another Bluey, hence the episode's title. And what does Bluey teach Bingo? Well, Bluey decides to teach Bingo many great things, such as being a great leader of play, a creative thinker that can come up with endless games, and a strong figure that can stand up for herself. Nah, I'm just kidding. She basically teaches Bingo how to do her dance in the theme song, and how to be a nuisance to Chili and Bandit. So after turning her sister into a messy, loud, and evil main character, Bluey and Bingo go out to do chores, because if they don't, Bandit will let them starve to death. And yes, I know, it's just a joke. I think. Wait, is it?
Well, you know all that food in the fridge? That doesn't belong to you either. But if you want to keep eating it, I suggest you get to work.
But after some more complaining and yelling, Bandit finally snaps and he sprays Bingo's color off. And after their first plan, the roles basically reverse, with Bingo teaching Bluey how to be a kind, respectful, and gentle soul. Also, I don't have a joke for that one because that's actually what happens this time. Also, Bluey is orange now! So with Bingo's calm, organized ways, the world finally becomes at peace, safe from Bluey's reign of terror. But do not be fooled, because the era of tranquility does not last long. Being the outspoken canine he is, Bandit's just like, wow, this new life sure is amazing. It would be a shame if Bluey actually acted like herself. And unsurprisingly, Bluey is kind of depressed knowing that her dad appreciates Bingo more than her, at least in just this one episode because the plot said so, and runs off to her room Bingo style. But after Bandit's slip up, Bingo goes into the room to join Bluey, where Bluey is saddened, believing that she's just an annoying nuisance who can't do anything right. But in an attempt to make her sister feel better, Bingo shows that she can also act crazy too, which she proves by turning into whatever this horrifying abomination is. Because apparently, the two sisters color swapping wasn't enough cursed imagery for the creators. So with Bingo's new look, they give their parents some payback by scaring the bejeebus out of them. And Bandit, realizing his horrifying mistake, decides that maybe having two of the same thing isn't always a great idea. And to end things off, Bluey and Bingo basically pretend to be each other, giving us one last cursed color swap. So, where to start? Well, overall, I have to admit that as mentioned before, the idea behind this episode is kind of interesting, but honestly, I didn't really expect it to go anywhere crazy. But if I could give it an award, it would probably be for having the craziest execution of an idea. I mean, being able to see Bluey and her sister play tricks on their parents while literally switching colors was an absolute blast to watch, which of course led to a ton of hilarious moments, making it one of the funniest episodes in the show. But even between all of the chaos, they were still able to squeeze in an emotional moment, with Bluey questioning if her parents actually like her for who she is. Which, now that I think about it, is pretty heavy for this otherwise lighthearted episode. And personally, I don't think it's the greatest sad moment in the show, but I will admit that the heart was definitely in the right place. I mean, Bandit saying that he'd rather have two Bingos instead of a Bluey right in front of her face is pretty sad. Although he eventually does change his mind once he realizes that Bingo isn't as perfect as he thought. And what has to be my absolute favorite part of the episode is when we see Bingo comforting Bluey shortly after. Because considering how many times we've seen Bluey try to comfort Bingo, it's a fun refresh to see the roles switched around. And it shows that the characters aren't one-dimensional, with Bingo showing her more spontaneous and crazy side that we've seen in episodes such as Featherwand, while also showing the more emotional side of Bluey that we see once in a while, such as in episodes like Butterflies or Camping. However, with that said, if there's one thing about the episode that I think could have been done better, is that despite the different sides we see of the characters, I feel that Bluey was a bit out of character in this episode, because as funny as it is, in the first half, she literally does nothing but go out of her way to give her parents a hard time, just so we can see how quote-unquote annoying she is. And it's nothing major, but I feel that this kind of does a disservice to her character, as yeah, she has made questionable choices in the past, but nothing to this extent really. And Bandit's attitude towards how much he wants Bluey to act like her sister is repeated so much, and it's painfully obvious what they're trying to get at. But overall, those are just small nitpicks, and I have to admit that the stuff we got from the plot was pretty entertaining, despite its flaws. And regarding other aspects of the episode, the soundtrack is of course great as usual, and uses a variety of instruments that perfectly match the chaos Bluey and her sister get into. Yet when Bandit accidentally makes Bluey sad, the music goes completely silent, which really lets you take in the raw emotions of this scene, and makes it sting that much more. But shortly after, we get this calm, sincere music that eventually grows into another upbeat piece to represent the return of Bluey's happiness. And considering the animation, it's as great as any other Bluey episode, but of course, the absolute highlight is how the characters look, because it's such a weird thing to see, especially in an actual episode. And overall, I just have to mention that this episode is an absolute goldmine for cursed images, but admittedly, a very wholesome mine of cursed images. Except for the ending. That phase is horrifying. But to be honest, I would pay money to see Bingo do this again, because after all, she does treat it like a regular occurrence. So overall, Mini Bluey is hands down the most cursed episode out of the entire show, whether it be from the switch in roles, switches in color, or some absolutely insane faces that'll haunt your dreams. Yet despite its weirdness, the episode still makes time for emotional moments and using its characters well, even if said characters were a bit stretched to fit the episode's plot. So if you haven't seen this episode yet and you're still here, I would highly recommend seeing it, especially if you love a dose of chaos in your Bluey episodes. But with all that said from me, what do you think? I've heard a lot of people say that this episode is already a modern masterpiece, but I've also heard a few mention that they weren't huge fans of this episode. And regardless of what side you're on, I'm really curious to hear your thoughts in the comments below. And that right there was a little review of mine on the new episode Mini Bluey. Totally unplanned, but I hope you enjoyed it anyways, because my next video is probably going to take a while. So until next time, B&B Productions will be signing out. Have a great day everybody, and I'll see you real soon. Bye everyone.